Say good morning to John Duggan.
Good morning, Ger. Good morning, Arthur. How are we doing?
What's rare is wonderful. And to Arthur, how are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm pretty good. What kind of a weekend, JD?
Look, it was just an amazing sporting weekend, wasn't it? Katie McCabe, Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Villa messing up, Newcastle messing up but surviving the Champions League, Sunderland going back to the Premier League, Celtic losing the Scottish Cup, Bordeaux winning the Champions Cup rugby, Tyrone beating Donegal, Cork into the Munster final, Galway into the Leinster final, Camogie back, ladies football back, Brian Moore and Aidan O'Brien winning everything. That's normal. Pretty amazing weekend for sport. And probably missed a lot of things. And Gary Lineker gone.
Gary Lineker, was one of the first things you spoke about this morning. So you were saying you were, it was ringing some emotional bells for you.
That was maybe because he's a Spurs great, but I've been watching Match of the Day since forever, since I was a kid, and he's presented us since 1999. So it was just interesting to see, after all the controversy, what it would be like last night when he was serenaded off the TV pitch, as it were. And they started Match of the Day with a kind of a montage of his goals for Leicester and for Everton and for England and for Barcelona. That was the very start. Normally they'd have all the goals from the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s in Match of the Day, but they'd all Lineker's goals in the old TV. Then it started off, Michael Richards and Alan Shearer, his kind of, like I suppose, his A-list sidekicks for Match of the Day. And then the first thing he said was, it wasn't meant to end this way. Maybe I'm paraphrasing it, but it wasn't meant to end this way. And then he paused for a second, looking at the camera, and then he went and he said, the Champions League is the only thing we have in the line this weekend. The Premier League's been decided, the relegation's been decided. But we all know it was a little bit of a line to just say, look, I am not walking out the door here the way I wanted to. Surely he wanted to be walking out the door at the BBC in New Jersey next year at the World Cup final, but it's not going to be the case. So they went through the usual 90 minutes, the unbelievably professional and calm, engaging, just that authority that he brings to the presentation. And then at the very end, we're going to get the tearjerker moment here, about 12:10 in the morning. This is Steve Davis, Dennis Taylor, time of the night. So what they did was then they had a massive tribute of little video messages from everybody, whether it was Adam Smith, who was his former Leicester teammate, to Peter Shilton, to Mark Lawrence, and to Alan Hansen, to Claudio Ranieri, Pep Guardiola, Virgil van Dijk, and then finishing up with getting the golden boot from Shearer, and everybody's kind of Ian Wright, a lot of tearful stuff. And then Andrea Bocelli, there's a link to a song, and then when they come back to Lineker, he starts tearing up and then says thank you to everybody. And it was actually quite emotional, to be honest, because it just seems to me that he's kind of a TV, I suppose, institution. It's a game we love, and Lineker, whether you like him or not, I just think he's a decent enough fella. And I know, look, he made a mistake last week, but in the round, generally what he's been saying has been, coming from a place of empathy and love. So I think fair play to Gary Lineker, and I hope he's, ITV have got the big bucks for him.
I hope that's not the end that we see of him. But it is really interesting that the BBC hold Gary Lineker more to account than they hold the Israeli Defence Forces for the genocide of Gaza. It's really interesting that we're at that stage of the world where NECAP end up being accused of terrorism and loads of other people aren't.
The proportionality of this is absolutely astounding. The proportionality is outstanding.
It is absolutely mad. So
anyway, we're dealing with a horror here,
Yeah, exactly. And we should be paying attention to it, not to Gary Lineker. But fair play to Lineker for actually speaking out and using his platform, and maybe now free from whatever strictures he was in after the previous issues that he'd had when he agreed not to say anything on social media. He's going to shuffle into the centre of importance in politics in the UK a bit more. We'll see. One other thing, just before we get into everything, news came through that Kevin McStay's health continues to be monitored after he suffered a medical episode at a training session on Saturday. So obviously we send our best wishes to Kevin McStay. And John Fogarty's piece has a line at the very end. McStay's health scare comes as GA President Jarlath Burns and Director General Tom Ryan attend a special meeting of the County Board in Westport this evening, where the county's finances are expected to be discussed. That's a story that Ewan McKenna has been working on a good bit online and has published lots on. And it goes back years and years and years. And it just is very interesting to see it kind of starting to bubble up now into the coverage while all the sport is actually happening as well. So, right, a reminder, Off the Wall Breakfast is with UPMC Orthopaedic Care. And things don't move, rotate or bend like they used to. Choose us to help you get back in action. Will we get straight into this week's performance rankings?
The good,
Is it acceptable hard to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
the bad,
I'm scratching my head. Our performances was just lacked that intensity.
and the amber. Off the balls, performance rankings.
All right. Arthur, you can't actually see the screen.
No.
There's nothing on the screen at the moment, so it'll be a magical
know where
mystery
we're
round.
starting.
Yeah, we're starting with Katie McCabe.
I didn't see it coming. Really didn't see it coming. I really like everything in the pre-match build-up to that. It seemed like a bit of a foregone conclusion that Barcelona were just going to go, do their business and clear up. It's incredible. It's an incredible achievement. Arsenal beat Barcelona 1-0 in the Champions League final on Saturday evening. Unbelievable. Second time in the club's history. Only English team to do it.
Was it 8-1 over the 2 legs that they beat Chelsea?
8-2.
8-2. And a Chelsea side who've been completely
Yeah.
unbeatable in England. So Katie McCabe is off celebrating. I think, did she say she's already in Ibiza? Do we know?
Well, she's in Lisbon. It's not far to go, is it?
But you could definitely short hop, all right.
What I love about this is what 2007, as Arthur said, when Emma Byrne and Ciara Grant and Yvonne Tracy win a Champions League, it is a drop in the Pacific Ocean. It's not even on the radar. And this is now front page of the Sunday Times yesterday. Back pages, Eamon Dunphy writes about it today. It's just an amazing achievement. It's just like how many Irish people have won Champions Leagues. We're talking about what? Shea Brennan, Tony Dunn, Michael Robinson, Ronnie Whelan, Mark Lawrence, Steve Highway, Dennis Irwin, Roy Keane.
Steve Finnan.
Very few. And for Katie McCabe to be a leading part of that team, to be a key part of the defensive unit that kept Barcelona scoreless, to beat Lyon on the way, to finish 12 points behind Chelsea, but then to go and win that Champions League is just unbelievable. Not only to captain your country at such a young age, but then to score the first ever goal for the Republic of Ireland at the World Cup finals. You think, well, it's not going to get much better than that. But maybe this, in a way, is even better because this is the pinnacle of your club football, your personal career. And as she said in the aftermath, and she said in all the interviews beforehand, she wants to inspire young girls and boys to believe that they can follow that dream. And her road was not always paved with certainty. She was left was at Raheny, went to Arsenal, and then had to go to Glasgow on loan. Had to stick at it, had to dig it out, and she has. And it's a and I don't know if it's necessarily her. Cathy McNamee probably let us know more, but her natural position playing in that position, left back, but it is just sensational, and it should be the top story. It is the top story.
It's just the only slight caveat to all this is it's so disappointing that we're not getting ready to face the Netherlands on the 5th of July. Would have been another big shot in the arm. So I think absolutely Katie McCabe going in the green, Arsenal going in the green. There's no ifs, ands or buts about that. So we can...
Interesting, Tommy Walsh came on with me yesterday on the show and he, because I suppose sometimes you don't think about this, and it was a great week for us at Arsenal. I grew up with Tony Adams and we won the Champions League yesterday, and to equate the women and the men into the same bracket, because sometimes we don't do that. And that I love that he did that. And I was going, yeah, actually, you've had just as good a week as me.
Arsenal do a great job of it though as well, which is kind of vindicating. They've kind of, even since, when were the murals painted around the Emirates when they opened, or was it a few years? It must have been years after, was it?
It was very I have no concept in my head anymore of how old the Emirates is.
About 2006.
Yeah, it's around then. Yeah.
So they didn't obviously win it the year after, so it's obviously a little bit after. But they've always incorporated even Emma Byrne amongst those murals, and they've just done a great job of kind of building it. It's great synchronicity, so it's great to see that rewarded.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's unbelievable. Like, it really is. It's just when I just think she's the 4th Irish player ever. So that's just, I know it's not a game. Obviously, most of our players are in England or whatever, and they've not really typically had the greatest success there, but it's incredible stuff. It's so surprising. That's what I genuinely...
I didn't see the odds, but I presume...
9-1.
9-1, wow.
Yeah, like this, I think it was Barcelona's 5th final in as many years.
And they've won 3 of the last 4?
Yeah. So, like, it's off the charts. Like,
a stunning achievement.
It's such a peak for her career. Like, I know all she's done internationally, but, like, it's just, massive.
Almost as big an upset was Manchester United, the quality of their performance yesterday. That's Unai Emery with his head in his hands.
What happened, Ger?
That was, their form has been really bad over the last couple of months, and the chickens came home to roost. Like, obviously, they played really badly from the start. And then, obviously, two things can be true. They got completely ridden by the referee. But, you know, it's one of those whenever was it Nani getting sent off in the Champions League and Roy Keane was like, well, you put your foot up, you're going to give the opportunity for the referee to make a decision. It's like, Villa should have taken it out of the referee's hands. They didn't. I think that their squad hasn't been deep enough. And, you know, when Ollie Watkins plays as badly as he did, they've nothing left. There's no one else there they can turn to. Obviously, they wouldn't have been able to turn to Rashford anyway if he'd been fit because he's only on loan from Man United. And over the course of the season, there was a few results where, was it 10-man Ipswich got a point against them? They'd been on reasonable form, reasonable results recently, but the form in the matches hadn't actually been great. Yuri Tielemans, when he came on, vastly improved the quality of the side yesterday, even down to 10 men. Martinez red card. I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing, Emmy? What are you doing? You don't need to do that. And even if Man United scored, that might have been the kick up the hole that Villa needed. But I'm not sure Rasmus Højlund would have scored off his left foot from the angle. What are you doing, Emmy? So, yeah, very disappointing. Particularly because Newcastle also bottled it at the same time.
Absolutely, and that's kind of understated, that Newcastle blew it.
Yeah.
And Villa, I mean, I know a couple of years ago that Emery had issues with Martinez around a game at Arsenal when he was doing things he wasn't happy with. And for such an experienced player who's a bit of a maverick to kind of throw it away, it's just very disappointing. And it's a 100 million game. It's a bit of a big swing. But I was, even like you're talking about, I was doing the team of the season. I was kind of doing research first. Ollie Watkins missed more chances than anybody else in the Premier League this season.
That rings true.
And it's just like for a team that has had such great moments, Paris Saint-Germain, Bayern Munich this season, it's just it just feels like a sliding doors moment for what, like, is Morgan Rogers going to leave now?
I don't think Rogers will leave. I think I think they didn't have the squad to compete on the two fronts, and they reached the quarter-final of the Champions League in their first ever time being in it. So on balance, you would say at the start of the year, yeah, we'll take this. But the fact that they had it in their own hands, 15 minutes left to go, and then get completely ridden. Like, what are you doing, referee? What are you doing? Don't blow the whistle.
Thomas Bramall, 35 years of age, inexperienced, and they're questioning why he was picked for the game.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, at least they're handling it with great dignity.
It's too little too late. Well, they're not calling for... They don't want to be the 65th team in the Champions League or whatever it is, Team 65. Am I right? My numbers right?
Team 33.
Is it? There's only 33?
Yeah.
Are there only 32 teams in the Champions League?
Yeah, 32, yeah.
Oh, there you go. We even
it's like Sepp Blatter. Can't we be the 33rd team?
We haven't even have a dead podcast after it. We can 36. There's a team 37. Yeah, look, incredibly disappointing under the circumstances to get so close and then to.
But they didn't turn up. They were flat.
No, like the last week. They were terrible. Man United were actually quite good.
What's the mental thing about that? Like, like this is the biggest game of your season. The mental pitch in that to be completely flat.
Well, they were pretty flat in many of the games recently.
Right.
They did look like they were completely shattered.
Cup semi-final.
Cup semi-final, they were bad. Even the last game, the 1-0 where Ollie Watkins scored that great goal, they were terrible. It was a Brentford or Bournemouth, one of those.
Are they in trouble now?
I don't think so. I mean,
like I have very perfunctory knowledge of these things, but I gather the Jack Grealish boost is now gone from this season onward. So obviously they've spent lavishly, and their wages are improbably high.
10th highest wage bill in Europe.
It's like, and even the turnover is what, 96% or something.
Yeah, it's
wages to
they're quite
turnover.
close to in the PSR bracket.
So they're probably going to have to sell.
Well, they had to sell last year, and they sold Douglas Luiz and a couple of players that you probably don't know about. Tim Irabunum, and there was a guy they sent to Chelsea who did his hamstring on the first day of the season, never played for them.
With the long name.
Yeah. And...
Carney...
No,
Chukwuemeka?
No, that was the previous season. So
right.
They will buy some players off Chelsea and Everton on that carousel. It looks slightly dodgy that they all buy off each other for the same amount of money. So I mean, they expect to sell Emi Martinez in this first tiny little pre-World Cup transfer window, and there's probably a few others that they'll sell. Leon Bailey, and I mean, the wages thing is like, yeah, they're still paying wages for players that were signed under Steven Gerrard and before that. So, look, they'll go deep in the Europa League next season. There's obviously an opportunity for them to...
You know how good that is to win.
Qualify for the Champions League through that. So, actually easier for Spurs to qualify for the Champions League this year than it was for Villa.
Well, that's it. Spurs had 38 points and 22 defeats. There you go.
Well, no, it came down to the same thing. Spurs could beat Man United and Villa couldn't.
That's the line in the morning so far.
I mean, it's a strange state of affairs when you're making Man United look as comfortable as they did yesterday.
I don't know if Amram had to do that speech, but it was good for him to do it.
It was a strange tone. He doesn't really. I just don't know how someone who's so confident a communicator is obviously struggling to get his message across to his players. That's the only thing that I can't quite get my head around. He's obviously a very compelling speaker. I suppose unless he doesn't have the ideas, but yeah, who knows? But I don't know. We have to. Unai Emery, I presume, and Aston Villa by metric that are in the red, I'm guessing.
I mean, I think that they had a pretty good season all told. Reached the Champions League quarterfinals, only got knocked out just about by Paris Saint-Germain. Put them on the rack for about 5 minutes. I'm happy for them to be in amber if you want. How much did they get for the entire Champions League run? Villa received 29 million from performance money alone for getting to for the Champions League. Spurs won 25 for winning it. So if they go and win it next year, it's like not that much difference in terms of the revenue. Obviously, match day revenue won't be the same because you're not going to be selling out for Thursday night. But anyway, all right, let's move on. Cork.
Got the job done. It wasn't uber convincing. Didn't, well, we should say it won, but bet Waterford by 6 points in Páirc Uí Chaoimh yesterday. Waterford are gone. They joined Clare, knocked out in May. And Cork will play the Munster final against Limerick in 2 weeks' time. Strange vibe around it. There wasn't. It was sold out, so there was a great kind of exuberance to it, but it was surprising yesterday, especially during the first half, how often you could hear elements of the crowd and not elements of the crowd, but sounds other than the crowd when it kind of died a little bit. It just dipped. It's a strange atmosphere to it. And just a strange kind of game where it was like you always kind of felt Cork would win, but they never really got going into sort of fourth or fifth gear. Little bursts here and there, but not looking anything like the team that I think we thought they were going to be at this stage.
And even when they did get going, it felt like they might be able to kick on, but they couldn't kick on. It was like there was just these little bursts of good quality passing, free running from their forwards, and then they'd stop. They just wouldn't be able to do it again. Almost like they... is there something great trying to break out, or have opposition teams really essentially worked out how to stop them at source, and there are moments where they get away from you, but actually you can always batten down the hatches again? Like, a big debate about the black cards happening in hurling at the moment. Some suggestion that maybe it could have been a couple of black cards for Cork in that game, which would have led to penalties for Waterford, which might have changed the texture of the game, right?
Yeah, I think there was a nervousness going into the match yesterday that Cork's All-Ireland Championship could be over by the end of May. So I think there was a bit of an undercurrent around the game, and I think there was a nervy match. And I think when they were ahead at half time, when they had the breeze in the second half, I think they were always going to win. And when Brian Hayes got the goal in the first minute, and then when they got the second goal then from Patrick Cork, and I think it was always, they just had Waterford enough at bay. I know Waterford kind of came back into it, but there was always enough in there. But 17 wides for Cork, look, is very much a B performance. It's an amber situation for the performance rankings. But the thing about it is now the pressure in a little bit is off now, because the Munster final, there's a trophy on the line. They haven't won it in 7 years, but it still doesn't have as much jeopardy on it as it would in a round robin game, because the losers are still probably going to be into the semi-final. You'd have to think.
They will. So the losers will end up probably playing now Dublin.
You got 5 teams. I mean, with the greatest respect to Dublin, I don't think they're contenders to win this. There are 5 teams left in the All-Ireland series: Kilkenny, Galway, Tipperary, Cork and Limerick. And Cork are one of those 5. So I think that it won't be 16 points in 2 weeks' time. It's back in the Gaelic grounds on Saturday, June the 7th. It surely won't be 16 points. It might be another defeat, but Cork can now say, OK, well, we can bank even a Munster final defeat and look to the All-Ireland series and try to sort out the issues we have in terms of our, I suppose, efficiency and then our defensive solidity.
Yeah. Because it's fascinating how quickly it's turned.
Like, they can turn again, though. Look at Galway, the first round against Kilkenny. They were shocking. And now they're coming to with a bit of a sail going into the Leinster final.
The odds for the hurling final. What do you think the spread is for the Munster final?
7?
Yeah, 5 to 7.
A point.
A point.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
There you go.
No, it doesn't. That's insane.
That's good. That's very good. If you're a Limerick backer, that's good.
Limerick -1 or 11 to 10. Cork +1 or evens.
That's a good bet for Limerick. That's wrong. The bookies have it wrong there.
Don't they?
Yeah, the bookies have it big time wrong.
Cork are 6 to 4. Limerick are 6 to 4 on.
That's mad. Do it responsibly if you're going to do it.
So you think it should be further out? They should have more.
It should be 6 or 7 points.
Yeah,
right?
Limerick should be 5 to 7 points.
Limerick lost by whatever 10 points yesterday.
Which Limerick lost? Yes.
That was a dead rubber of all dead rubbers.
I know, but like I don't. If you even if you look back at the last day, so Limerick win by. They're 2-18 at half time. I don't know what they ended up. That's the same amount they managed over the full game in points totals yesterday. So you can kind of go, I know, granted, it's different teams, whatever else, but the balance of probabilities, you're not doing that again regularly. Something would really have to be clicking with you if you could do that, even come close to that again. And Cork, I think, we're on 9 points. That's probably not going to happen. So I think just the reality is, I'd say that from their point of view, like I think it's just the last day there was no match in the second half. It was basically a half of hurling, and then it was kind of like, well, there's a bit of damage limitation, but whereas I'd just be astonished. This game's obviously going to go right into. You're going to have a match in the second half. I'd say whatever happens, there's going to be somewhat in the melting pot, and we don't know necessarily how either of them are going to respond to that. Because they both kind of Limerick weren't great coming down the stretch against Tipperary. They couldn't put it away when they had a kind of few opportunities to plug in. Cork against Clare, shocking the first day. Really let themselves down in that, like thrown away whatever it was, a 12-point lead or whatever it was.
There was a red card that kind of precipitated that.
Yeah,
right?
Shane Barrett.
That's their fault. I mean, that's...
Yeah, but
they had a red card, yes. They should have had, your man, like Shane Barrett should have had a penalty yesterday.
Yeah, but so
they have that in them.
If they hadn't had that red card against Clare, I think they would have taken care of business. And actually, many of the doubts, there's a flakiness there that we're going to believe exists within them until they win All Ireland. And fair or unfair, I think that's going to be the case, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Can they bring the physicality to the game in the Gaelic grounds in a couple of weeks? Because they didn't bring that last week. Can they bring that edge to the match against Limerick, and that'll make it probably a much closer contest. But it's still phony war. Even some Munster.
It is
John Weiler on. I mean, they won a Munster title with Cork in Clare in 2018, but it's not what he's thinking about. He's thinking about the All Ireland semi-final that they lost. So this is. The Leinster and Munster finals are going to be great days, and you learn a lot. But we're still in the journey to really find out. It'll be semi-finals and final before we really know. The flakiness thing, I think defensively they just need. Look, when they're in flow, I mean, as an attacking team they're amazing, but defensively I think they need to shore up a bit. So
realistically, what we're looking at then is what way is it going to go? So if the winner of this will play, probably who did they get in the semi-final then? Probably Tipperary. All things being equal.
You think
if it goes out like last year,
Tip would beat Galway.
What happens if Galway win Leinster?
If Galway win Leinster, yeah, who knows? But so if it goes like last year, I suppose if it follows that trend that there's 3 Munster teams in the semi-finals, you probably end up playing Tipperary, which I think both of them would fancy beating. To be fair,
yeah, it's hard. It's still quite cloudy for me now at the moment. It's quite cloudy. I think we've been through a very intense phase, and now we're going to get into a bit of a lull, and then you get the intensity back for the semis and the final.
There's only 3 big weekends left.
Yeah,
it's kind of sad. So where Cork then?
Well,
Amber, definitely Amber.
Yeah.
In fairness, that point about there only been 3 big weekends left, it is pretty stark, right? And that's what Peter Quealy's talking about when he's saying, we'd like to play some hurling in the summertime. It's May, we're gone. He's asking players to commit, and the players are saying to him, I mean, if only you could guarantee me some summer hurling, I might consider it, which is...
I have a degree of sympathy with that, but at the same time, they've never now gotten out of thing, have they?
Never had the round robin. In the COVID years, they did well.
Like it's easy to say, you would say that having just been beaten, but there is a wider point that's correct, right? That actually,
would we not want to see Clare in the next few weeks playing hurling?
Yeah, I'd like to see Tony Kelly again.
Yeah.
I mean,
Shane O'Donnell,
you know.
Why can't they just do what they do in Gaelic football? You have your provinces and
everybody gets back in.
You just throw this like a fire extinguisher through a window, the National League back into the championship picture for about another month, which is what they're doing in Gaelic football, and it's great.
Gaelic football's killing hurling at the moment, right?
Well, the numbers would suggest otherwise.
What do you mean?
Well, there was another sellout again in Páirc Uí yesterday.
Yeah, but it wasn't great, was it?
30,000 odd in Limerick for a dead rubber.
Will they come next year?
But you had 70,000 at the Leinster final. Armagh Donegal was full.
It's absolutely, but I'd say that obviously there's a novelty to that isn't like, Cork play Waterford every year, but you still have a sellout in Borky. Like the Munster Championship sold numerous
That's
sellouts.
the Cork hurling fans.
No, they're like, yeah, but no Clare Tip in Ennis was a sellout. A weekend before, the Clare footballers, 1,500 came to watch them play down.
Yeah, but the Clare footballers are no one in Clare thinks they have a
Galway,
chance.
Dublin
of
was pretty full.
Yeah, I think there's a kind of people are very excited about the hurling. Like it's not like rumours of its demise, etc.
Just hasn't been maybe as
Not slightly complacent there, no.
Well, the numbers are bigger than ever.
Yeah, but everything, it's always, the last sting of a dying wasp. But those the great flowering of the apple tree just before it collapses, falls over.
I don't know.
You think it's grand? It's totally fine. Nothing to see here.
I think it's been like it's not.
What kind of a season has it been so far?
Well,
So take the numbers away. Quality.
well, the quality's been off the charts at times. Like some of the play we've seen is unbelievable. Like I don't know if you can do that. Like it's unfortunate in certain regards that like Clare are missing the hurler of the year, doesn't come back and play this year because he's injured. It's like
Now just that he gets fit, they're like, screw you.
Yeah.
Off you go, sling your hook. We don't care about you anymore.
Well,
I just think
can't,
that
but, like,
there needs to be a slightly different structure. I make this point every year around this time, and everyone's like, no, that's why the Munster Championship is so
Leinster
good.
has no fizz. It has
Leinster's
no fizz.
problem. Leinster.
Leinster has no fizz, and it's soft Broadway. And if Clare didn't show up, which they didn't this year until it was too late, then you really have, and Tipperary beginning to get their act together. Then you're going to know who the three are. I could tell pretty early. I could actually tell after the Cork game that Clare were cooked.
So Cork are in the amber.
Yeah.
Next, there was no fizz apart from
What do we have there, Davey?
Davey. We should get Davey's quotes just to read them, make sure that we're not, so that there's no
Ambiguity.
of
Yeah.
people thinking that we're misrepresenting Davey. I'm going to do some justice to this. So obviously, Antrim's entire season came down to a big game yesterday against Offaly in Tullamore, and so Davey obviously a big signing, and Terence McNaughton was in the papers last week speaking with Michael Verney, saying that he'd been pissed off essentially from the moment Davey arrived, because Davey had come in and said he was going to teach the Antrim hurlers how to walk again. And Terence McNaughton was like, why do you have to insult every single coach there is in Antrim? And he also said stuff like, really always feel like passion might help in winning games as opposed to some of the madness that he's doing. But the interviews were the post-match interviews were the things that got him. And so Davey, yesterday, having just seen his team have another man sent off, this time for standing on someone's head. It wasn't like one of those kind of a pull that goes slightly wrong or a late tackle that you miss time. It was a stamp on someone's head, which is clearly, it speaks to discipline. And they've had a man sent off basically in almost all of the games. I think 4 of the 5 games. So he said, he was asked about McNaughton's comments. I have good time for Sambo. I'm just so disappointed in him. He was in management, probably didn't do great. I've so much respect for him. I'm just so disappointed in what he did, but he's entitled to his opinion. He's entitled to his opinion, but it doesn't show class. I'm not going to say anything bad about him because I'm just disappointed in him. It doesn't need that. We're trying our absolute best, so we don't need the likes of that. But he's entitled to his opinion. So just to go back there, I'm not going to say anything bad about him, having just said he was in management, probably didn't do great. He's entitled to his opinion, but it didn't show class. So even while he's actually saying the thing that he's not going to do, he's doing the thing that he says he's not going to do. And then he went on to hit back at the knockers, unnamed. Not doing Antrim any favours, doing what you're doing. That's all I'll say to you. You think you're big men. You're not big men. I'm so proud of them today, immensely proud of them. And then he had to compose himself because he was tearing up. Davey needs to step aside for the good of Antrim hurling and step aside. That's like clear at this point that this thing has not worked out. He says he's tired. He's been complaining about the travel in recent times. He said he only went because a good friend of his who'd been very good to him asked him to go to Antrim over the years. And but it hasn't worked out. It hasn't been a good fit. They have been, there hasn't been a simpatico cultural relationship there. And I'm amazed that he didn't get a touchline ban for what he said about the linesman last week. Like, it's now open season on linesmen, and I'm surprised the referees haven't come out and been more vociferous about this, but maybe they figured he's gone from the championship and we're not going to have to talk about him for another year. And you suspect that it'll be a while before another inter-county team comes to Davey and says, right, we want all of the baggage that comes at you now.
So what was Davy's last successful run? Wexford, 2019? Was that his last successful run?
Final, yeah.
I had Terence McNaughton and Gregory O'Kane in here last year for an hour just to talk about Antrim hurling and its past, its legacy, 89, all that kind of thing, what needs to be done. There's a huge pride in what they're doing up there in the club game. Obviously, they've had like very successful club teams in Dunloy and Cushendall, Lochiel, and they really want respect. They want respect from the GA. They want respect for Antrim hurling. They want Antrim hurling to flourish. They won a couple of John McDonagh Cups 2020 to 2022. And you don't want to be a yo-yo county that's going up and down. And like Davey in the Sunday game last night, he was almost talking in the third tense about the third person about Antrim. Well, Antrim will be this, Antrim will be that, as opposed to we or us or the shared vision. And if you have the most celebrated name in Antrim hurling, I suppose this is the spiritual leader of the county, which is Terence McNaughton, coming out publicly and saying, look, we're not happy about this. That's not a good look. And that's why I don't think this has been a success. It's a bit like Galway with some of the managers that have gone in there over the years, over the decades. Hasn't worked out. Hard to argue that this has. Now, it was quite close because they had a man sent off, Niall O'Connor, and it was only a point in the match until Killian Sampson got that late goal for Offaly. So it could have been closer. And if they had the 15 players, maybe would have got a bit of a different narrative. But the narrative has fit what's happened there over the last 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah, to lose one man looks like unfortunate. To lose a man every game, it's carelessness. So lack of discipline ultimately bites them in the ass. Davies in the red, and surely Antrim are going to move on, and surely he's going to move on as well. So next it's Trent. Everybody loves Trent, right?
Well, it was Jurgen Klopp's intervention, I think, was very timely and it was very honourable because it almost put it up to Liverpool fans. Hey, I'm Jurgen Klopp. Cop yourselves on here and just shut up and remember who this guy is. He's been at the club since he was a very young boy. He's been 20 years at the club. He wants a new challenge. He wants a new adventure. Look, they are rivals, but he's not joining Manchester United, or another Premier League club like a Chelsea or Manchester City. He's going to Real Madrid, who, whatever people say, well, they've added this season, they've added that season. Real Madrid are the establishment club of world football. You get lovely weather. You're playing with Kylian Mbappe. You're playing in the Bernabeu.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, come on. Yeah, no one's going to begrudge him.
15 Champions Leagues.
Just to point out, exciting new manager.
And Jabi Alonso, Liverpool legend, has gone in there over the weekend as the new manager. Why shouldn't he have this challenge?
Will Jabi Alonso get booed when they come back, when he comes out?
No, absolutely not. They'll be given the red carpet.
But Trent, I think this is all fine. You're allowed to show you're really pissed off when the news breaks. The legendary former manager comes back to celebrate and says, "Don't do that." And you're like, okay, fair enough.
It was like Dad coming in and saying, "You know what? You need to cop on." I was, fair enough.
You've had your fun.
But it was really emotional when first of all, there was a bit of almost like an over emphasis on Trent off from Sky. He's having a moment when he's in contemplation there on his own, and they're zooming in on him. And then there's the moment with the family where he breaks down with his family. It looked like his family, probably was his family. And look, it's a happy ending for something that probably got a bit out of hand.
What were you going to say?
Sure. No, I forget. Carry on.
Great picture of two Liverpool legends, Alan Hansen, and he actually got to hand over the trophy to Virgil yesterday. Great to see Alan Hansen, because remember there was a health scare.
Wasn't well a year ago. Yeah.
So he looks great.
They're all there. Kenny was there. Stephen Gerrard was there. They were all there yesterday.
The new Rangers manager, Stephen Gerrard. That's certainly back in the ether again. And then finally, so Trent in the green.
Fitting finish.
And then Tyrone Donegal.
Well, I don't even know where we're. So I suppose from the Donegal point of view, it'll veering towards red, but it's very hard to put either in red. It was a great game. Tough conditions, but it's just kind of. I think you were saying before, and so
Christy O'Connor has an amazing stat here. And to give him, this was a massive win for Tyrone, but it was another tribute to Malachy O'Rourke, who's now the first manager to oversee 2 championship victories against McGuinness, having managed Monaghan to the 2013 Ulster title. McGuinness' only defeat in 21 Ulster championship games. That is insane.
How many seasons has he done? So he's done
6 seasons in Ulster.
6 seasons.
This is 6th season.
That's insane.
It's good, yeah.
It's
I suppose, within the Ulster context for sure.
It is, because they don't have, you wouldn't look at them and go, oh, look at the 12 all-time great players that they have in their positions. obviously they have a few who are absolutely sensational. You see the impact that Sean Patton has had by subtraction. You're like, whoa, the difference that he makes. And obviously Murphy. And there's loads of other really very good players, but it's not like Limerick where we're talking about could 6 of those players be the best player ever in their position?
But Limerick play every team in there. Donegal don't play Tyrone or Armagh every year. Like
no, they've managed to beat all comers apart from that one time when Malach York beat them in 2013.
It's some going
over 2 separate instances with 2 completely different groups of players. I think that's very.
We talk about the cult of the manager, and McGuinness and McGeaney are in there for their amazing achievements. And Malach York has got such a CV in the game. Glenn, Monaghan, Fermanagh.
They are now back All-Ireland contenders.
Absolutely.
Right. That's going in the green, I think.
No, well, from a McGuinness point of view.
McGuinness, you got put in the amber?
I'd put in the amber. No, there's some question marks because everyone will be.
Is anybody in the red yet?
I don't think so.
Well, Davey is.
Davey is. Yeah. Even Unai Emery beat you this weekend, Davey.
Well, you are the boss chair, so otherwise you'd be in the red.
7 minutes past 8. That is this week's version of the Performance Rankings. Off the Wall Breakfast is with UPMC Orthopaedic Care. When things don't move, rotate, or bend like they used to, choose us to help you get back in action. Hurling next.